All right. Hi. Can you hear me? Am I audible now? Is the sound better? Okay. It's audible. Okay. So we're finally going to use this one. Apologies. I had to do this, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, but we're finally here. So today I'm going to speak about my GMT experience. In the previous video, I spoke about the recruitment process, interview, and everything basically before getting selected. But I get asked a lot, what was the process like? How was it? What am I supposed to expect? And I'm going to answer those questions this evening. So the first thing was, of course, getting selected and preparing to move because I was not based in Lagos when I got selected for the program. So I had barely a week between selection and resumption. So I had to make plans for accommodation to move. For people that have families and friends, it becomes a lot easier to stay with them during the period, or in certain situation getting maybe a shared accommodation also works as a great option for the GMT program. Then I'm going to go ahead to answer one of the most popular questions I get, which is around compensation. So, for the purpose of the GMT program, we were compensated in what was called a stipend and also stated in the contract. Stipend is slightly different from salary because salary gets taxed by the government, but stipend is like an allowance. So think of it that way. You're not having to pay tax on that amount. But when it comes to compensation for job and roles generally, it goes beyond having a stipend or a fixed amount, maybe monthly or bi-weekly, depending on the agreement between you and the employer. So things like health and medical insurance are also important, and we're lucky to have that during the GMT program. Then towards the end of the program, we experienced a slight increase in a stipend out of the generosity of management, and also considering the increase in fuel price, which affected cost of living as a result of subsidy removal that happened during our time. For specific amounts of stipend, I don't even remember exactly what we were paid, but I know it was good when compared to market rate. It was around the average high market rate of what most organizations will pay GMTs. But again, I would recommend asking HR during the interview process, and maybe asking when you get the contract, just to clarify before you go ahead to sign what is the compensation plan or package for this role. Next, I'm going to speak about the program structure. And I like to say the program structure was divided into three main parts. So, for the first part, that will be orientation and introduction. So, on our first day, we had just a brief orientation and welcome by HR. Then we also had to take headshots. So we were informed to wear something blue or something with a touch of blue for our professional headshots. And then we did that day. Then we got our new systems laptop to work, which of course, when if you have to leave, you have to return company property. So we got new laptop, and then we had someone from IT speak to us about do's and don'ts and how to change your password and security and things around that. But around the first week or first 2 weeks precisely, we had a lot of people speak to us around company operations across different departments and different operations. So we had people speak to us about company operations. I mean, they were not all Nigerians, or they were not all based in a Nigerian office, but a number of people that spoke to us were at one time GMTs. So it was also a great experience, an opportunity also to have conversations with them on what to expect, how to make the most out of it. People had a lot of questions about work-life balance during our time. Then for the second part, that's basically called training school, but I like to think of it as soft skill training. So think of it as waking up and going to class or going for a lecture. But then this lecture is structured around soft skills and leadership and managerial tips, which were very helpful. So we did that for a couple of weeks. It was more than a month. I don't remember exactly how long, but it happened for a couple of weeks. And we had to write three tests. The tests were majorly objectives, but in between we had subjective questions, and they were in relation to what we learned. So we learn, and then we have tea break, then we learn, then we have lunch break, then we learn, and then we close for the day. So um, the lecturers or the trainers, of course, had to give feedbacks on behavior and all of that stuff. After the test, we were grouped for rotation. But before we were grouped for rotation, some people left the program. So it's not everybody that starts the GT that stays till the end. I mean, life happens. So some people come and then for different reason they end up leaving and even between rotations. So the third part of the program is the rotation, and graduate training varies for every organization. But for this particular program, it was a rotational based program. So it meant working in a particular department for 2 weeks and then moving to another department for 2 weeks. And the rotations were all within Nigeria, so we didn't have to travel out to um, do rotations. Before rotations, we were grouped. My group, we had 5 people. So one guy and 4 ladies were in my group, and we worked in different departments together. So for every rotation, you spend 2 weeks in the department, and for some rotations, you have individual tasks depending on maybe who you're working with or what you're working on. And for some other rotations, you end up having group tasks that you have to submit before you leave, and you get graded um, based on how you performed in each of the various departments. Of course, we didn't see the grading for that, so we don't know what that was. But my rotations were majorly in Lagos. So I like to say Lagos Island, Lagos mainland, um, Benin. Yes, we went to Edo State and Abuja. And for rotations, we were given per diem. So I think my favorite part of rotation was actually collecting per diem. So there was a fixed amount of per diem, and then we were given that for rotation in addition to our stipend. Then towards the end, or within the structure of rotation, we had like a 1 week period to just sit down and rest for a while, if I will call it that. And then, of course, the program continued. Then, before the end of the program, we had a task that we were supposed to work on for a while. I don't remember how long we spent on it, but it was the final group project, and it was harder than all the other group projects, so all the other tasks we had to do during training school or during the departmental rotations. And we had to do a presentation to some of the top business officials on that particular task. So we did that, and after that, they told us the program had ended, and we got feedback. So I think our program for my cohort was supposed to go for maybe 9 months, if I remember well, but it ended, and we spent about 6 months in that. My feedback general, I would say it's a great program and experience for anyone that is looking to gain industry experience around the areas of operation in the business. One thing I like to say about GTs is graduate training is very different and relative depending on the organization. Some people will tell you on Twitter that graduate training is your ticket into any job, but it varies because if an organization sees graduate training as a fast tracking program for management, and then someone else sees their graduate training as an opportunity for anybody to come and become an intern, then the structure of the programs will be different. The quality of the programs will be different. The expectations and criterias of the programs will also be different. The demands of the programs will be different. So for anyone looking to climb the 9 to 5 ladder, stay in the 9 to 5 ladder, become a top industry professional, I highly recommend, depending on the department or field that you want to gain exposure in. Um, just in addition, I would say it's a dynamic experience or a dynamic organization. So it's not a classic 9 to 5. A 9 to 5 is good, a 9 to 5 is great, but it's not your classic 9 to 5, right? And I don't know how to explain the mad, like the making a difference, but when you enter inside, you understand why it's called mad. That's basically what I would say about that. Then for getting retained, this is just what I'm going to say generally about the GT program. I think the first thing is really about emotional intelligence, and that was like a key learning point for me during graduate training because I'm used to being in a conservative environment, staying on my own, doing things on my own. So the first thing I really had to learn was understanding that teamwork is not working with people I like, but teamwork is learning to manage and accommodate people of different backgrounds, different beliefs, different behaviors, and ensure that the work is done. Like their lifestyle and whatever is not my business. It's just that the work is done excellently and delivered according to timeline. So it means learning to work with a spontaneous person, learning to work with a structured person, learning to work with someone that procrastinates. So teamwork is definitely something that you will learn and you will need coming handy into the program. Then emotional intelligence is also very important. Knowing when I'm angry. I mean, self awareness is a component, but I think the bigger part really is the emotional regulation, knowing what to say, knowing what not to say. Then separating work from life is also a key component that you will need for a GT or for any work experience. But again, within the should I say dynamism of having to separate work from life, there's also the place of having your own tribe and your own people that can root for you, that can look out for you, and that can share information. I think as we grow as adults, one of the things you realize is money is important. But if there's anything that is more important than money, it's information, right? The right information can help you make a decision that makes you go faster, makes you go slower, or keep you on the same level for a period of time. So having those kind of people, of course, requires discernment, and I hope you have them during your GT program. Competence and excellence is important. So if you're supposed to show up early for something, don't don't do African time or don't use African time. Just show up and show up excellently, show up on time, do what you're supposed to do, and get the job done. Of course, document the process. So if you because you're going to work in a team at different time, if you did something, note it somewhere that you did it because it will come in handy. So there's a place of teamwork as in, oh, team A did an amazing presentation. And then there's the place of learning to speak out for your own work. So for instance, they come and say, wow, team A did this amazing presentation. Who in team A worked on the who in team A worked on the research? Then you don't open your mouth and say it's a teamwork. Is it the entire team that did that particular research they are working on? So that's where the person that did says, oh, I worked on this research. Or team A has the best presentation slides. Who designed your slides? You don't say it's a teamwork. It's one person that designed. It's me. I designed the slide. It's me. So yeah, those key components or those key parts are important. People will not like it for it. People will like it for it, but it doesn't really matter. So understanding and finding a balance between teamwork and speaking out is important, and try as much as possible not to throw people under the bus. Yeah, that's also important. Document the process, have fun, and focus on your mental health. So if there's something or a hobby that you like to do, find the free time when you can do it to go ahead and do it. If there are people living close to where you're living, then you may consider carpooling, sharing a ride to maybe go to training school or to handle whatever. There's someone that is good at everything. So you want to know who is good at this thing, and if I need help for this thing, how I can reach that person. But most importantly, make the most of the experience because at the end of the day, the experience is your experience and you determine your trajectory through the program. Whether you determine whether you get retained, you determine to an extent what department you get retained in based on the work that you do, how vocal you are, and how strategic you are. Tomiwa said I should tell you guys that he was my best friend. So I'm telling you, his name is Tomiwa. I think he's in strategy. So you can go and disturb him if you need any more information. I believe I've done justice to this topic. So if you have any question, I will answer in the next 1 minute. And if there's no question, I will end this live. So thank you for joining. Yep. So thank you very much. I'm guessing we don't have any questions. So if you miss the live, of course, you'll catch the replay, and I wish you the best with your experience. There's a previous video on the entire application process and what it was like for me. I think another thing is really to be open minded and to have a growth mindset, because I'm not expecting every cohort to be the same or everything to be repeated. So just that discernment and ability to make room for surprises and grow with the surprises is something that is excellent and will make the program great for you. Then there's a GT webinar replay where I spoke about what a GT is, preparing for a GT, CV writing, cover letter writing, interview, and answering some other questions. So you can also check that out if you're looking for more information. And I wish you the best with the GT progress, the GT program. Bye.